Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. I'm John Kim.
And I'm Noelle Cordeaux. We are the founders of Lumia.
And we're super passionate about all things coaching, and we want to share what we've learned from over a decade of coaching and training thousands of life coaches.
Let's dive into the science and magic of coaching.
On today's episode, we are doing part 2 of trends for 2024. And It's an important episode because you're going to get the inside scoop from Noelle, not so much me, because Noelle researches everything I do not. And so we're going to go through 4 major trends happening for 2024.
Yeah, and that's not true. Because as we've been unearthing these trends, what we've been discovering is that you actually do them.
Without being aware, the whole, I don't know if you can say this today, but the whole, what is it called? The bull in the China shop? Is that okay to say? Okay. So, that's kind of how I live my life. So I will, come across things that I wasn't even aware, or going into spaces that I'm doing, backing up into them on accident, mostly from just panic.
Yeah. Oh, well, hey, listen, you and I have traditionally been 5 years early. So my friend, you are right on time.
Perfect. Let's talk about that.
2024 on time. And I love it. All right. So let me pull the wool back and talk a little bit about the trends that I've selected to highlight and why. So obviously this is not an extensive list. I just picked 4 from really broad categories that we're seeing, but these trends and themes are continuing in such massive ways that they're really worth considering. And they're worth considering for coaches to understand where the spaces are that they need to be positioning themselves in order to serve the populations of the future. So like we talked about wellness, real estate, that's bringing wellness services in-house. We've talked about the trends towards groups, community, belonging. That is not going anywhere. That's a trend that has staying power. And then last year, the last 2 years, actually, 2022 and 2023, we looked at how coaching was really shaping up for very niche populations. And so that's another trend that we're seeing. And these niche populations are groups of people who are traditionally really underserved in society. And so those are kind of the broad strokes. And then we'll bring it way down today to look at some really specific examples of how this is all shaking out. And this first one, I chose partially because I really wanted to get your perspective on it as Vanessa's partner. So the trend that we're seeing shaping up for 2024 is an explosion in practitioner need for new mothers.
Yeah.
And it's happening now because the experience of being female in 2024 is so complex. And
women are finally talking about it.
Yes.
Motherhood, all the stuff, sexuality, domestic labor, unevenness, all that stuff. Yeah.
We're the rug is being pulled up. Everybody's talking about it. And the shift that happens, especially for women when they become mothers, is so profound. There's an identity loss, a friend loss, professional loss. Your body is not your
own. Hormones, disconnection. It's because I've been a witness to it for the last 3 years, and it's not just Vanessa. All our friends around us. And then people having 2 to 3 kids, which is a whole nother, and I don't know if the world today is designed to hold that, but anyway, the anxiety, the disconnection to self, the crack in the connection with partner, it's a roller coaster. It's not a roller coaster ride. It's a tornado.
It's a tornado. And logistical changes, just even watching what you and Vanessa have gone through over the last 3 years and trying to coordinate your life has been complete mayhem from like lack of sleep to drop
Yeah.
off, pick up, babysitter, food,
Money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a good example. So like, this is something it would never even cross my mind. Breastfeeding. I
Mhm.
thought it was a natural thing. I thought, oh yeah, it's one of the hardest, most untalked about, difficult, painful things that a mother goes through. But no one talks. I had no idea.
No one
Yeah,
talks about it. And
no one
so
talks about it.
all of these issues that have been in the dark for so long, because women
Mhm.
are socialized like motherhood is the pinnacle. This is what
Right.
you should,
Yeah.
aspire to.
Yeah.
And then folks get there and it's like, oh hell no. This is changing everything. And I don't necessarily know that I like this is something that's coming up. And so there is suddenly a whole set of practitioner interventions that is being developed to attend to this really
Mm,
specific and really acute time in the lives of women as they're going through this
yeah.
experience.
I think it's needed, and I could see why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the research came from a London based think tank called Well and Good, and they did an entire piece on this, highlighting all of the different ways. So check it out if you want the full scoop. But for coaches in particular, what we need to pay attention to is, okay, what are these services and where are they taking place? And
Mhm.
it's showing up in a new slate of platforms and communities.
Mm,
And so I would say for coaches who are interested in this work, the platforms and the communities, so that's where the clients are in the communities, and the platforms are where jobs are being created, because what we're hearing from women is that they feel completely unsupported and unprepared to tackle the changes and this
yeah.
aspect of life.
I wonder on the other side, I don't really know. I wonder what's happening with men and all that, and if there are spaces created for men and
Yeah.
coaching.
I mean, I would say let's expand that view to men and also parents
Any
who have
parents.
not given birth specifically, right?
Yes,
So
exactly.
there's a whole subset of support that needs
Mhm.
to be undertaken, because I mean, you're right. For you as a partner to be going through this and having the experience of a new family formed, and
Mhm.
then the confusion, shock, and awe that
Yeah.
takes place, it really does need to be considered from a whole family perspective. And one of the interesting pieces of this trend is that following the thread of wellness real estate, where so many providers are beginning to integrate lots of different services under one umbrella and bring them into homes.
Mhm.
This is a major space of job creation. So, what this looks like is a team based model where there's perinatal services like acupuncture, physical
Mm.
therapy, coaching, lactation
Mhm.
support, doula care. And this takes place in person and online. So, it's the omni channel approach. You can go
Yeah.
online for a more affordable aspect. And then the luxury services are a whole team coming into your house to support you
Wow.
with this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff. So that so this trend, thinking about new mothers, this is an example of an underserved population that's suddenly getting the flashlight shined on it.
Mhm.
And so if you're thinking about working with a really specific niche population, what you need to know as a coach is that you're going to be drilling down, right? You're going to be drilling
Mm.
down into like a specific life stage and really becoming an expert in all of the issues that would take
Right.
place with someone within that space. Yep. So moving on, another population that has had absolutely no shortage of attention over the years, but continues to make headlines, are baby boomers. And
Mm.
so we're pivoting out of the world of home and into the world of work. And what's happening here is that the boomers are beginning to exit the workforce en masse.
Yeah.
And
We're talking about
what,
our parents, right?
yeah,
For
yeah, our
many
parents.
of us, yeah.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. Folks who are in their late 60s,
Mhm.
70s.
Mhm.
Um, and so this is contributing to labor shortages because this is such a large
Population,
generation.
yeah.
And this is across all industry sectors. So we're looking at blue collar roles, healthcare industry jobs, and then, very high level executives. These are all of the spaces. And so, if we're thinking about the sheer number of people who are leaving the workforce and the fact that there's a massive labor shortage, there aren't enough people to come in behind folks, and people are starting to enter their retirement years, but economically, a lot of people aren't fully prepared to enter their retirement years.
Yeah.
And so there's a new phenomenon taking place, and it's called flextirement.
Flextirement. So is that part-time retirement? What is flextirement?
It's part-time retirement.
Yeah.
So this came to us from Fast Company. And again, if you want to go deeper, there's a really great piece on it. But the reason I wanted to bring this here and to highlight this for coaches is because coaches are the ones who are being brought into organizations right now to support and facilitate the intergenerational transfer of knowledge and skill that's taking place, very much with a highly attuned focus on retaining talent. And so this particular population, folks who are going into flextirement, the way that coaches are working is to get together with people and understand their values, understand what would keep them at a company, what is the knowledge that needs to be transferred, and basically setting up kind of like a custom plan for each individual to maintain key responsibilities while coming down to limited hours, essentially.
I wonder how the boomers are feeling now leaving the workforce and, moving into retirement or flextirement. I wonder if they're happy generally or if there's a sadness, just kind of getting older.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of exactly why coaches are working at this intersection. Because so much of this work, when we're talking about generational divides, when we're talking about like the sunset of life, essentially, has so much to do with emotion, with values, and exactly as you're describing. How are you feeling about this transition? It seems to be at the outset a win-win where people can genuinely keep their intellect sharp while doing the things that they really like and supporting a transfer of knowledge. But, and the big but here is that culturally, from a values perspective, most corporations have a huge problem where the values that they say that they hold don't actually match the experience of the employees. And so that's a lot of the work that the coaches are doing right now inside corporations to facilitate these huge changes that are taking place is, well, what are the values that are important? How are they showing up in the workforce? What do we need to do and change in order to support essentially initiatives like this at scale when it's not just 1, 2, 3 people, but an entire generation that is downshifting?
The generation of coaches who are helping the boomers, aka their parents, may also be very activated because it's a different generation. We have feelings about that, what they could have done differently, how we were raised, and all of that.
Yeah, I'm 43. And I have a lot of friends who have turned 50 and are in their 50s.
Yeah,
and
me. I'm 50.
I know. Yeah, you're one of the people I'm talking about. I over the last 2 years specifically, I have never experienced such a reckoning in my peer group around midlife, turning 50, and that being like a psychological demarcation zone for reflection, refinement. Who am I? What have I done with my life? What am I doing now?
All of that is happening to me. Happening to me. Exactly what you're saying. Entering the moon of my life. Yes, everything you just said.
I can list like 10 people that I'm having these exact conversations with because it is such a reckoning, and it seems like it's getting more intense as the years march on. 51, 52, 53, and I'm watching this happen, and I've I've had a lot of friends of a lot of different age groups for a long time, and I've never heard it this, said out loud like this before. So I'm wondering if there was something with the pandemic, that this is hitting in a new way. What's your
Sure.
perspective?
Well, I can only speak for myself. One, when you're when you hit that half century mark, you start realizing, okay, we're on this planet for a very short period of time. What do I want to do? How do I want to be of service? But also, like, I'm able to say no more to things, little things that take time. I mean, partly because I'm a dad now, but um, what do I want is a big question
Mm,
that I asked early on, 20s, 30s. It's very different than now, but I feel like um, I'm 50. I'm going to be 51 in a few months. What do I want? What do I want? And what's happening is a lot of old models, like vases that were passed down from generations that we poured our life into. At this age, I'm willing to shatter, and I'm willing to create something new. And the world is open to that, which also allows for a lot of coaching in people's lives. This is the first time that I've experienced the world. I mean, just everything is being redefined. So whether we're talking about looking at motherhood, monogamy, marriage, how we work, help people, love, play, it's all being redefined. Everything's being customized. And so I'm at the intersection of turning 50, the world allowing this kind of dialogue, and then asking myself, like, what do I want? What do I want to do for the next 30 years? I don't, it's like these big, big questions.
big questions,
Yeah.
right? And so, as we're tying this together, like these are the real issues that are impacting people who are in these different life stages.
Mhm.
And so thinking about yourself as a coach, really tuning in to the different experiences intergenerationally is a
Yes.
great way to think about your practice, who you are, what you know, what's your lived experience, how can you support others as they're moving through these phases.
Also,
Um,
to be careful, you don't put your definitions on your clients.
oh yeah,
Whatever
oh
that
yeah,
is, right? Yeah, of course. I mean,
and
and sometimes it just kind of leaks out, but just to be aware of that.
that's fundamental. And this
Yeah.
is a great point to lead us into our next topic. So we're going to take a look at Gen Z and what they're
Mm.
experiencing right now. So these are folks who were born in 1997 to 2012, and they
Uh,
range in age from 11 to 26. Now,
mhm.
you and I have had a very different experience from age 11 to
Oh
26
yeah, yeah, of course.
than people who are alive today. I
Yes.
can't imagine what it's like to be those ages in this time with tech adoption,
Mhm.
with like when I was 11, my parents would say, go outside and play.
Right.
And I would be like gone,
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
show up at dinner, but I'd be in the woods by the ocean running around, like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
but today that's not possible
No,
for,
we are consuming content. We are yeah, we're definitely not drinking out of hoses, popping wheelies, and um playing outside until the lights turn off. Like, yeah, like you and I did.
yeah. And that's noteworthy. One of the things that's happening for Gen Z is there. So first of all, there's a global epidemic of loneliness. Like that's happening
Mm,
to such an extent that, from a geopolitical perspective, governments have really started to take in note of the way that loneliness is impacting people.
mm,
And the UK is leading the charge right now in direct interventions for loneliness.
mhm,
And then in North America, specifically in the US, there's been a lot of public funding and think tanks that are starting to contribute to corporate initiatives to help combat loneliness, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Like public
wow.
dollars are going to support
Yeah. Yeah.
corporate initiatives, but
Right.
okay, here we are, right? So the example here, and the thing that I want coaches to be thinking about, is what's happening with the dating app Hinge.
Mm,
So loneliness, age 11 to 26, is such a problem for Gen Z that public funding is now going to Hinge to create an initiative that is going to kick off in New York City, Los Angeles, and Atlanta that's dedicated to helping these younger people, this specific generation, find belonging.
Wow. Wait, how are they doing that? Just do
Through the
different.
fucking app. Like, and I know I'm cursing a lot, but it's like I'm watching the world right now. I'm like, oh my God, like, are we in the Matrix? What's happening? Right. So, for coaches to pay attention to, like, there's an increase of coaches moving into relationship apps to work as coaches to help people form friendships is one of the big things that's happening right now. So
Instead
many
of just finding love, you're saying.
Yeah. So many of the dating apps have transitioned from specific focus on dating to also support building friendships. And that's coming down to an increased need for social skills coaching. How to make friends, how to have conversations. And for the 11 to 26-year-old range, one of the biggest challenges that they're facing is conflict resolution. They don't know how to engage in interpersonal conflict. I suspect it's because people have spent so much time behind screens.
Yeah, they're hiding.
That the idea of interpersonal conflict is just way too scary. And so there's avoidance. And then there's this mass loneliness that's taking place.
It goes back to this idea of that we're living in bubbles. And I feel like, conflict resolution requires practice. It requires, putting in the reps. And so the kids these days, when you can break up via text or, after 3 months, they're not practicing what is difficult is, looking someone in the eye and having a hard conversation. None of that is happening. And so then when they get into relationships, it's like they don't have they just run or hide or numb or, there's no capacity.
Yeah. And I think too, what I see often is the lost art of picking up the phone.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And having a conversation with someone and hearing their voice and humanizing them versus sliding into somebody's DMs and blasting them. Right.
Yeah.
It's a
Email,
very
text.
different experience to have to pick up the phone and deal with somebody else's humanity. And so, this initiative on Hinge, the app, is actually leading folks to engage in in-person social action. So here's where I'm getting like a little bit frustrated with this whole deal. So according to Hinge, this is the quote from Hinge. Hinge will track the number of connections made through the initiative and monitor the impact on the consumer's well-being. This move builds on other efforts by the dating app meant to combat loneliness and comes as other marketers focus on in-person activations. So essentially, for 11 to 26-year-olds, hanging out has become a damn product.
That is so weird. Yeah.
Right.
Oh man, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. In a way, it's sad that we've cut. We this is where it's at. But then it's like, using tech to not only create spaces for social exchange, but getting people to engage in person because we're so hiding behind phones. It's kind of, I don't know.
It's wild. And I'm glad that like social initiatives are taking place to combat this because, we're seeing some of the highest suicide rates, especially among this population. So it's really vital to the fabric of our society. But my God, like, okay. So, what coaches need to know is that this comes on the heels of 2023's massive explosion of social clubs. And the coaches are really prominently at the forefront of these new initiatives, helping people refine their social skills because people need support, accountability, and encouragement to, as you said, do the reps, to do the hard work, thinking about your emotional life as needing the same level of strength training as your physical life. Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. It's good. It's a good thing that the action is being taken.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. All right. So our last trend is one that you're already doing, which I get excited about because you get to give us some real world data here. So we followed this trend of in-person groups, belonging, social clubs that are taking place, and another trend that is leading the charge that surprised me in terms of in-person groups, but it also makes a ton of sense. So is social activity that is facilitated after dark. And there's a catch.
Okay.
I know.
Sounds erotic.
A very strange conversation today. But this, I mean, all of this points to the fact that humans just don't know how to engage with each other anymore. So the main trend that we're seeing kick off is taking place at resorts, and people are going on nighttime stargazing activities, hikes. This is for singles. This is for groups of friends. This is for families to engage in. And you do some of these activities when you run groups, like you have people go out for hikes. You have them engage in ice baths, breath work, different modalities. So this is all happening, and it's shaping up to replace essentially what has since, for a very long time been bar culture, pub culture, because people are drinking. And so there are fewer social outlets for people after work hours. And so we're seeing this rise in social activity that's being designed for nighttime. Like you shared last time that clubs in LA are being taken over by wellness pop-ups.
Yeah. I stumbled onto this. I think my first hint of this experiencing myself, I think, was when I signed up to go on a dirt bike adventure with 12 dudes in the woods. And it was the first time that, because I'm a city boy, that I shit in the wood. Like I had to take a shovel and dig a hole. It was the first time that I slept, I think, in a tent, and so that adult kind of camp feeling, I was really moved by and was thirsty for. And so when I started to run little retreats in Idlewild, that consciously or subconsciously illuminated. And so what you're talking about is kind of what it is. It's more of a social hang, as opposed to, I think, what was in 5-10 years ago was the very exotic, let's go to Bali, spend thousands of dollars and have expensive massages. So I went the other way. And so, I'm going to throw you an ice. We're going to go for a hike. We're going to just talk about life in a very casual, non-luxurious way, kind of like you would if you asked 10 friends to go in nature, so that's what I did. And then I realized, people actually are responding to this.
Yeah. And so as a coach practitioner, thinking about this and thinking about, how do I do this? You just gave this classic example of you get 10 people together, you take a hike, you throw yourself in ice, and you talk about life. So, every single one of these trends is really pointing to the fact that the fabric of our society in terms of communities, friendship, and belonging is broken. Full stop. And people need help.
Yeah.
And so I think as we're looking at, the advancement of AI and people saying, coaching is going to take over AI. AI is not going to help you have friends.
No.
AI is not going to get you together to go for a hike. And the way that coaching is really starting to transform and where the jobs of the future are going to be is in getting people together, helping them develop friendships, supporting them in social skills, supporting them in their values, supporting them in their loneliness. And it's filling a human need that no one could have anticipated. I think about, I think Bowling Alone was written in 2008. From 2008 to 2024, our social fabric has disintegrated.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that a book, Bowling Alone? I love the title.
Yeah, it's a seminal work. It was one of the first books to come out that talked about the disintegration of civic and communities within America. And it was the first book to really raise the flag of alarm and say, like, hey, we have a really big problem here. People are now bowling alone
Got it.
because the bowling clubs are no more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Church life has disintegrated. People don't go to community centers anymore. People don't
Yeah.
know their neighbors anymore. So this is it. This might sound like it's not the most uplifting topic to go into the new year, but I feel an extraordinary measure of hope in the fact that we have an opportunity as coach practitioners to turn the tide.
Yeah. And also to get in there, to create bridges, to create support. Be a coaches turning into kind of like first responders in a way.
That's it. That's it. And my dear friend John Kim has been doing this in a house in Idlewild for the last year 2 years and making it happen. So thank you for your service. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, lots of opportunities for coaches, and dive deeper if you want on these trends for 2024. If you're thinking about being a coach, or if you are already a coach, there's more opportunity now than ever.
Yes, indeed there is. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and be well.
Be well. Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to lumiacoaching.com/everything. Explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a bold community to do it with.
Lumia is ready to equip you with the tools, training, and community you will need to reach your goals. If you're ready to build a unique coaching business on your own terms while making an impact on the world at large, Lumia is the next bold step in your coaching journey. That's lumiacoaching.com/everything.
And hey, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it.